who had a whole career and didn't actually work in music seriously until he was 40 years old. Well, today I want to tell you about a Russian composer by the name of Alexander Serov. Alexander was born in St. Petersburg in 1820 into a very culturally engaged and very well educated family. His father was a government official and held a good job. Alexander was exposed to all kind of culture in his family, poetry and paintings, and yes, music. But music did not really catch his attention any more than anything else did. He was very smart and very intellectual and really enjoyed conversations and books, and he ended up going to a very good university where he pursued a formal education in law. This was a stable, good job for him to have, and he enjoyed it. After graduation, he went into government service. He worked as a bureaucrat in quite a few cities in Russia. And for many years, this was his life. It was very structured, it was very predictable, it was very safe. And also, it was very far removed from the world of music and definitely from composing. But as he got older, he enjoyed music more and more, and he really began studying music, like got books on music. And then he became a music critic. He was a great writer because he was an attorney, and he started writing for newspapers and whatnot about all the music that he heard. And then he heard Wagner, and he fell in love with Wagner. And this was kind of a point of contention. Alexander became one of the first Russians to really champion Wagner and the bigness and greatness, like especially his operas, which is what we know about Wagner. He believed in the power of opera as a dramatic, unifying art form, where music and storytelling and staging all work together as one. But there was a problem because at this time we have a bunch of Russians who are trying to find the true Russian music, and they're doing anything they can. And we've talked about them, and they're really wanting to find the Russian identity. And Wagner was not Russian. So here we are, people like Balakarov and Mussorgsky, they're really wanting to create this Russian music. And then we have this new guy, he's not new, but new to music guy, and he is really leaning heavily on Wagner, not just Wagner, he's actually leaning on Western European music because he really likes what he hears and he thinks it's really good. And he's thinking, well, we can have Russian music and also learn and appreciate this other music. I like all of it, but it became really personal. There was another music critic by the name of Vladimir Stasov, and they were music critic friends. They were good friends, but they so disagreed on this point. Stasov believed like we want Russian music and that's all we're going to focus on, and that's the only thing that's important for us as Russians. Whereas this guy is like, no, we all music, we can appreciate all of it. And they were no longer friends forever. Like they never made up. Also, during this time, he's really taken the studying of music even more serious, and he starts taking music courses through correspondence, including composition, which wasn't done a whole lot back then, but he was really, really interested and became more and more interested. And then when he turned 40 that year, he started really composing in earnest. He writes an opera called Judith in Italian for a very specific singer, but then the singer and something happens that doesn't happen. He has to rewrite the same opera and he rewrites it in Russian, and that was a really good thing because it became a very big success. This opera was very dramatic and structurally definitely influenced by Western European music. And so there were a lot of critics that were like, whoa, this is way too Western European and not Russian enough. But then other people were saying, hey, it's written in Russian. And actually, this is great. It's so dramatic. It's so wonderful. He becomes quite good, and he even is taking on his own students. And he has a student by the name of Valentina Serova, and they fell in love and got married when he was 43 years old. Now, she was a composer in her own right, and later on really helped him and helped with the legacy, but also just helped him with his own composition. They ended up having a son named Valentin, and he became actually a very famous painter in his own right later on. After Judith, he gave up his law practice and he really was composing. That was all he was doing, was composing. And he was very successful at it and was really enjoying it all through his 40s. And then when he was 51, he suddenly died. He had a heart attack, and it was so sad because he'd started so late. So we only had like a little over a decade of work from him. He was in the middle of writing his third opera, which ended up not even being finished. So his wife, remember, she's a composer, she finished it for him, ensuring that his final work could still be performed. After his death, his reputation shifted, where he had become quite regarded as a composer during his lifetime. Not so much. He just kind of got forgotten. It wasn't that people suddenly hated him or anything. It just there are a lot of other composers. However, he did love Wagner and he did love Western music, Western European music, but he also loved Russian music. And so ultimately, how people have remembered him is this wonderful bridge between very Russian music and very Western European music, and where it finds each other. So he definitely did not follow the typical path. He had a whole career in law and then kind of work as a critic, a music critic who was respected in that manner. And then he ended up going into composition. And how cool is that? That we are never stuck in one thing. We are able to change whatever we think of in life anytime we want. And a late bloomer, he was still a bloomer. So good for him. Go and listen to something by Alexander Serov.